tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
I'm Wabanzi, Brett Putton. Good morning, Brett. How you doing? Brett probably sitting in his car, eating Subway or something, ready to go.
Yep.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 7:59 a.m. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. It is Friday, the 16th, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It is the 16th. I know it feels like it's, I don't know, it feels like it's been a long week.
I was going to say 15 because
Yeah,
Friday the
right.
15th was just going to roll. And then Friday, I thought 13. I was like, but no, it's not that. We would have known.
Oh, exactly. I remember. Anytime it's Friday the 13th, you better be worried.
Right. But it is Friday the 16th, and we hope that you guys are all having a nice, great, blessed, positive morning. We have a great show for you guys today and a great guest and a great discussion coming your way. Before we get into that, I want to say that I hope that the week that you had prepped you for the weekend. So be sure to go out, have a good time, or spend time with family. Just be safe and have some good fun. And next week, we've got a whole lot of good information for you. But today, we're going to talk to the Executive Director of Family Counseling Service, no S, Service. And that is Dr. Eric Ward. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, sir. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, good to see you. We're going to do this and talk about many things. We're going to learn the history of Family Counseling Service. We're also going to talk mental health and let the Aurora community benefit from your knowledge. For those unfamiliar, what is Family Counseling Service and where are you guys located?
So we're at 70 South River Street is our main office. We also opened up a second office about 3 years ago out in Oswego in Kendall County.
Okay.
We are a nonprofit mental health organization. We serve a little bit over 4,000 families per year from mostly southern Kane and Kendall County. We have a staff of about 75. And we're a couple of years away from our 100th anniversary.
That's
as
right.
An organization.
Wow, 100 years. And in that 100 years' time, which we'll also talk about a little bit, the organization's mission has changed. It didn't start off as doing mental health.
It wasn't. So the organization was originally founded by a group of wives of local business owners. The original mission was to deliver food, clothing, and heating coal to what at the time they called the worthy poor. Probably not terminology we want to try to use nowadays. But so you have to understand what Aurora was like back in 1925. It was a very industrial city with a lot of factories and shops, and there also weren't really any laws that protected workers who got hurt on the job. So if the father got hurt and couldn't work and the family couldn't support themselves, so they would go, what they called on the dole, basically depending on support from local government or mostly churches and small organizations. So there wasn't an organization like that in Aurora at the time. So these group of wives got together and they went to their husbands and said, hey, these men are getting hurt in your factories and can't work. You need to help their families. And as business owners will sometimes do, they said no. And so their wives did what wives often do, which is cleaned up their husband's mess and formed this organization that originally was called the Family Service Agency.
The Family Service Agency.
Yes, sir. And so we that's kind of was our mission. Obviously, I wasn't there at the time, but that was the mission of the organization for many years. We didn't actually get into mental health work until the 1940s after World War II. And again, a historical perspective here. So if you remember, that was the first time that women kind of went into the industrial workforce in mass, right?
That's right.
The men were at war, and we needed people working in factories and building things. And so women went out into the workforce. Well, then when the war ended, the men all came home and said, thank you very much, but you can go back in the kitchen now.
Right.
And the wives said, I don't think so. And so suddenly you had a need for marriage therapists, which is why our organization kind of changed direction and started doing counseling work. So we, since then, have grown, especially the last several years in particular. When I became the executive director 12 years ago, we had a staff that was in the 20s. And now we're several times larger than that. The need is certainly greater. For a long time, we really just did counseling and therapy work. And we've expanded into psychiatry and substance abuse, case management, crisis intervention, kind of a full scope outpatient mental health clinic.
Wow. And then also in regards to the women in the workforce, that's when the legend of like Rosie the Riveter was born, because
Right.
women in the workforce in industrial labor as well, that was something revolutionary at that time.
Yeah, it was new, and it was kind of the beginning of some cultural change for our country.
So now, what are your day-to-day activities?
So we serve, clients come to us from a variety of different places. Some find us online, some are just making phone calls. Sometimes people are referred to us by their doctor's office, the courts, a hospital, kind of come from just about anywhere. And so when people come into us, we do a full mental health assessment. We're looking at kind of what their problem is and what they're looking for help for. We want to know if there are any barriers that are preventing them from getting the help they need. We work with a large Medicaid population as well as Medicare and private insurance. So sometimes those barriers can look like things like transportation or childcare or stable housing or food for your family. So we try to figure out what their needs are, if they need medication or if they have a substance use issue, and we try to connect them with all of those services within our organization. So some clients just need a therapist, which is
Right.
great. We can do that. We have a large team of very qualified therapists, but if they need more than that, we can help with that as well.
Jennifer Ryan Mayton, good morning. Aisha Saxon, good morning. Good morning, Aurora, right back at you. Saul Olivas, good morning. And Alejandro Ibarra, good morning to you as well. The time is 8:06 a.m. For those folks who are recommended to you, do you meet a lot of people who are, in a way, a novice when it comes to the system? Do you meet people who, what's the proportion or the ratio of people who are, mandated to meet with you as opposed to like, people who may just be scared looking out questions?
Yeah, so very few of our clients are mandated. Most of them, we actually have a very large program that offers treatment and education for both men and women who are arrested and then court-ordered for domestic violence perpetrator treatment. So we run individual and group treatment for domestic violence offenders, and that's the majority of our mandated clients.
Okay.
Often, like we work with a lot of kids, probably 50 to 60% of our client population is child and adolescent. And you could say, I guess, that they're mandated by their parents.
Sure.
And usually not happy about it when they come in. But so I don't know that the majority of our people are forced to come. Most people are just struggling. And I think that's always been the case. The last couple of years, as we go through this pandemic and we see all of the financial and employment and school ramifications of it, have been tough on people. And we've seen more people coming through our doors, and I think that's true across the board for the mental health profession. It's just people who are struggling with one thing or another, whether it's depression, anxiety, an increase in mental health symptoms that were already there, a lot of increase in substance use. As people are sitting home, they're alone, they're isolated, maybe they've lost a job, something like that. And so there are 1,001 reasons that people come through our door, and every client is different. But we're seeing some similarities in the increases of people. Right now, over the last year and a half, about 60% of people who are coming to us for the first time, it's because they need help with some form of anxiety-based issue.
Wow. And where's the office located on River?
70 South River Street. So we are a block south of the Waubonsee campus there, and just kind of kitty corner from the library.
Okay, Waubonsee, 70 South River Street. And then what's the website and contact information?
Sure. So it's aurorafcs.org is our website, and you can contact us through there. We have an online form if you want us to reach out to you, or if you have any questions about what we do. All that information is available on our website. If you want to call us, it's 630-844-2662.
All right, the man knew the number. Now, see, that's something I like right there. I like that. When they just don't have to look at a card or nothing, know the number. That's very cool. That's very cool. But if you got to look at a card, that's cool too, because you got one, right?
That's right.
The time is 8:09 a.m. You and I met many moons ago, way before the pandemic. We had coffee at Treadwell.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And I remember I was introduced to the organization. I went to one of the Aurora Chamber, like networking morning breakfast things.
Right.
And I met a colleague who worked with you guys at the time. And I had no idea of the organization at that time, and then was fortunate enough to take the tour of the building, and wow, it's huge, and you guys are doing a lot in there.
We are, for an organization that's almost 100 years old, I think one of my biggest frustrations is that about once a week I meet somebody who says, I don't know anything about you guys. What do you do there?
Wow.
And sometimes it's people who've been in Aurora their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that marketing is one of our strengths. It's something we're certainly working on, trying to get the word out more about who we are and what we do, because we want people to know that we're there and how we can help when they need it, right? I tell people all the time, one of the things I love about family counseling service is that we serve such a wide array of people. You walk through our waiting room any given evening, and you're going to see, white-collar businessman sitting next to a homeless individual, sitting next to a 13-year-old, sitting next to somebody who maybe is gang-affiliated, and they all come in for various reasons, and they all get the same quality of help. It doesn't matter what your background is. And I think knowing that we're touching every corner of this community is part of what I love about what we do.
Right. The community really needs it, and you guys are right downtown, right across the street from LTO. And to your point about the community and what's represented, I have seen all of the plethora of folks who interact, come in, come out, work with family counseling service. So you guys are doing good work. What's the gonna have a work office party for the 100th anniversary? What's the shebang or celebration?
So we're working on it. We actually just reached out to Aurora University's history department because we thought it would be a nice project maybe for some of their students to help us kind of dig through all of the old records and pictures and minutes from board meetings from the 1920s and 30s,
right.
And just put it all together into something that we can present to the community at our 100th anniversary, just to talk about how this organization has grown and changed along with the community. I don't know that there are a lot of true community-based organizations like ours left. They've all become part of larger multi-region or
right.
even hospital systems, and there are a few left in Aurora, which is one of the things I love about the nonprofit community here is, we're attached to these communities that we serve. We're supported by these communities that we serve, and we focus on that as opposed to growth for the sake of growth or reaching out into places.
Right.
There's enough need in this community that we don't need to go anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, I'm consistently, we are, Gabriel over here too, but we're consistently watching and liking and appreciating and seeing who's still kind of, like you said, left on the ground, kind of boots on the ground thing, doing the work for people. So kudos to what you guys do. The time is 8:12 a.m. Gabriel, if you would be so kind, take your boy to a personal commercial. Oh yes, going to deliver a couple of local news topics, as I mentioned, for these great people. The time is 8:12 a.m. Sherry Melby, yes, good morning to you. And Josue Pais, good morning to you as well. Happy Friday, Salud, right back at you. And Karina Suarez Darden, good morning to you as well. All right, check this out. An Aurora church in town aims to broaden perspectives during the Christmas season. This is a very interesting story that I saw, and I want to share a little bit with you guys because it goes to this whole community theme and aspect, which we love to. What's a good word?
Promote?
I was already thinking that a little bit more. Wait, right? We can do more. What? Not highlight, right? What's a good word? What's a synonym for promote?
Let's see.
What's a synonym for promote?
That'll be a word of the day. Anyone in the chat, if you have any ideas.
I got a free Java Plus coupon for coffee. If you can give me a good synonym for promote, want something good, put it in the chat. Anyway, here's the news. The celebration of worldwide Christmas traditions was the focus of a special offering at New England Congregational Church in Aurora just this Sunday, last week. Beginning at 11 in the church's narthex, those who attended the 10 a.m. service as well as community members were able to view a collection of nativity sets by artists reflecting non-European traditions as well as sample foods from various locations from around the world. The event was sponsored by a church committee known as Students of the Beloved Community. The Reverend Brandon Perrine, senior minister at the New England Congregational Church, said the newly formed Social and Racial Justice Committee is trying to think of ways we might broaden our visual presentation during the Christmas season, particularly of the nativity story. Because the nativity story, ladies and gentlemen, that's not just, an American thing. I mean, that is worldwide. It's well known everywhere. Quote, we had this idea of basically hosting an exhibit of nativity scenes and artwork from around the world that portray the Holy Family in a different light than what people are used to seeing at home. We're serving treats from other cultures as well. Those attending the workshop that preceded the open house were prepped for the multicultural Christmas experience as music from different cultures was also featured. Very cool. Not too bad. I like that kind of thing. It's a big world out there. How is somebody else living? I saw a really cool video online that showed that even words like pencil, it's different in Spanish in Mexico as it is in Colombia, Now, I don't remember what the word translated to, but, it's on TikTok, too. It was a cool little...
Curtis surfing TikTok?
Good Morning Aurora has a TikTok.
Oh, wait, we do?
We do. But it's hard to do,
Yeah.
You see me dancing for 10 seconds and then
Stay tuned. We may have to have some dancing on this show. That would be fun if we did like a dance segment of Good Morning Aurora.
Maybe we'll do a little dance challenge. We'll do. See, that's why we have it, right? That's why we have it. We have it to be ready.
That'll be fun.
All right, and the next piece of news I got for you guys is about Kane and Kendall counties are gearing up to implement Safety Act next month. And tune in next week on Thursday as I sit down with Jamie Mosser of the Kane County State's Attorney, and we're going to talk about her 2 years in office and what's coming up for the next 2 years. Kane County Justice officials said they're pleased with the new clarity under revisions to the statewide Safety Act approved recently, but they are still expecting January 1st to be a, quote, confusing and problematic, close quote, day, as they make the first steps to eliminate cash bail in accordance with state law. Meanwhile, in Kendall County, State's Attorney Eric Weiss said he is moving forward with litigation that includes a bipartisan group of 62 Illinois state's attorneys who have filed to overturn the act. Mr. Weiss said a hearing will be held in Kankakee on December 20th, with a ruling expected on the 28th. The recently approved trailer bill marks the third time lawmakers have approved amendments to the policy since Governor Pritzker signed it into law in early 2021. Proponents of the bill say it is designed to rectify long-standing inequities in the criminal justice system, including the practice of keeping defendants in jail before trial only because they can't afford to make bail. Opponents have said the law needed clarification and allowed violent people to be loose on the streets. Recent changes have expanded the list of felonies for which defendants can be detained if the state can show they're a danger to the public. Mr. Weiss said while the trailer bill, quote, is better than what it was, it's still not where it needs to be. The time is 8:17 a.m. You are listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. All right. So, Mr. Ward, where were you born and raised?
Born in DeKalb, actually. Raised kind of all over the place. We moved a lot when I was
talked about
young.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I think we moved 22 times by the time I was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I ended up back in DeKalb for both my bachelor's and master's degree, and still have family there. I'm out there pretty regularly. I'm fortunate to have a grandmother who's still alive and living out there. So,
Blue-collar background.
yes, sir.
And do you feel your life and experience prepped you for your current role in family counseling service? Because, and these are my words, it takes a person. This is not work for the faint-hearted. You know,
it's interesting you ask that. I was just having this conversation a couple of days ago with someone. So early in my career, I spent 15 years doing 24/7 mobile psychiatric crisis intervention work. So we were on call 24 hours a day. We got called out to emergency rooms, street corners, kind of anywhere, right? And one of the things that I learned that I was really good at was, you walk into an emergency room to see a patient who's there for mental health reasons, and they're typically locked in a room. They've been kind of ignored other than basic needs. Sometimes they're there for hours before the ER even calls me to come in. And one of the things I did well was, immediately connecting with these people in a very difficult situation. I could get them to work with me usually. And I finally realized that part of the reason for that, when I was coming up, boys, when you were the new kid in school or the new kid in the neighborhood, you had to kind of fight everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're the new kid, and that's just how it went. And I didn't, I'm fine if I have to, but I'd rather just kind of get to know people and not have to go through that.
Absolutely.
And so I think all of those years of moving around and being the new kid helped me develop a certain ability to kind of create instant rapport with people. And it actually ended up helping me in my career. I walk into the room, whether it's an emergency room or a counseling office, and you don't know me, but I need you to talk to me, and I need you to start sharing with me some things that maybe you haven't ever talked to anybody about.
Right.
And I'm a stranger, right? And so I think that's one of the ways that my background really kind of helped me professionally.
Right. No, you do have that. You do have that. You totally do. You are a very relatable man, and I think that a lot of times in the social service world or the counseling world, that really can make or break the entire interaction. We're either going to have a candidate who's going to flourish because of our interaction or training, or the candidate's not going to, or the client's not going to, and their problems could get worse.
Yeah, I mean, making change through relationships, right? Whether it's a coach or a therapist or a parent, a mentor, it's all about the relationship, right? You have to be able to connect with that person, have mutual respect, and be willing to listen. I remember my dad telling me when I was young, like, you can be the smartest guy in the world with the best advice, but you got to get people to listen to you first, and they don't listen to you until they trust you.
Right. Thank you very much for those synonyms. Michael Rayford's here. Good morning, Michael. Publicize. Thank you for that. Matt Hansen, good morning to you. Tracy Duran, good morning. Alvin Soto, APD in the house. Alvin Soto, how are you doing, sir? Good morning. Happy Friday to all you great people. Who've been your mentors in your field and profession?
Sure. So probably one of the biggest ones. He's now retired and moved to North Carolina and not involved in mental health at all. But Dr. David Leader, he's a psychiatrist who used to be the head of the psychiatry department for what was Dreyer and now Advocate Health. Just a real leader in our profession, not only from a policy standpoint, but from the perspective of just treating people as human beings and providing quality care and never letting that drop, that we treat people as people first, right? And this is a profession that is all about service. My job has a lot of administrative responsibilities. I have to make sure the bills get paid and the staff get paid, and policies and insurance and finances and all of those details. But at the end of the day, we exist for one reason only, and that's to serve other people. And I think when we start and end every conversation with that perspective, we as a company, as a business, do better because we're meeting our mission, right? We're not here to make money. We're not here to grow. We're not here to have fancy offices. We're here to serve individuals from our community, and that needs to be our emphasis first and foremost.
Time is 8:23 a.m. let's talk the pandemic real quick. So as we know, for everybody across the board, the pandemic exacerbated a lot of the issues that were already going on. What was it like? You know, if you could take us to the day, right, to the day that it started, when things started. How was that in your industry and for family counseling service?
So we were actually pretty fortunate in some ways. You know, the end of March 2020 was when everybody was being sent home, if they could be, to work remotely. We were already doing telehealth, right? We already had the systems set up to be able to work remotely and serve clients. So most of our staff for several months worked 100% remotely. There were some exceptions. You know, our psychiatry department was still coming in office. I think when you're providing medications to people, it's important to be able to see them face to face. And, you know, we wanted to do simple things like checking vital signs, right? Are we seeing any issues with these medications? Right. So our psychiatry providers, they really kind of led the charge. Our administration team was in the office every day, just, you know, fixing problems, dealing with issues as they came up. But our staff, and what was, I think we were just so proud of as an organization, was there was no drop in either the quantity or the quality of services that we provided. And we literally gave our staff 36 hours to make the change. We're doing this the day after tomorrow. Right. Get ready, let's go, let us know what you need. And they did. Our support staff were remarkable throughout the process. What we saw originally was kind of the status quo, right? Like people were still coming in for services or being seen online. And then about 6 months after the pandemic really hit hard, we saw this increase of people coming through the door, calling, needing help. And it was the kind of people that we would expect in some cases, you know, people who maybe have had underlying mental health issues in the past. They were stressed, they were worried. You know, unfortunately, the media was telling us to be afraid and to be worried. And so the schools were shutting down and kids were taken away from their friends and their support system and the structure of schooling. Parents were now being asked to not only just be parents, but to be educators. Right. And you know, I think it just threw everybody for a loop. And we ended up with people who could not cope and needed help. Right. You know, and you know, like I said, about 60% of the people coming through the door over the last couple of years have been for some anxiety-related issue. You know, anxiety is really nothing more than just fear and worry, right? And you look at what happened during this pandemic. You know, I don't know about you, but it got to the point where, like, if you coughed in public, you started looking around and wanted to explain to people, like, I don't have COVID, I'm okay.
That pressure, that personal pressure was on everyone.
Right, and you think about, like, where anxiety comes from, right? It comes from pressure and our responses to that, or sometimes lack of responses. And so we're not surprised that we were seeing children, adolescents, and adults coming through the door just saying, hey, I don't really know how to deal with this, and I need help.
Right, and kudos to you guys for making those changes and keeping it running, man. Because a lot of organizations, I think that the pandemic really showed the organizations that were dynamic, and I mean it was a learning experience for everybody. But there's a lot more organizations that were ready for it, either mentally as with the culture, ready to shift and change, and other ones were not, kind of reactionary.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I think our organization has always done really well is being able to react. Part of that is we're not an organization that is really dependent on a lot of fundraising or even grants. We have two basic grants that come into the organization. One is from the Inc. Mental Health Alliance, the local 708 board, and one is a federal grant. But for the most part, interestingly, when I first took over this job, not long after, we had a few state grants that I didn't want anymore. Grants are very restrictive on your organization. They don't allow you any flexibility. You do what the grant pays you to do, and you do it in certain quantities, and then you get your money, right? And so I started calling the state and asking, well, how do I give these grants back? And I learned that there was actually no process at the state level for returning some of these grants. I think I made 16 or 17 phone calls before I finally found somebody who could help me. And the rest of them, I think, thought I was a little bit nuts. One of them asked me, "Does your board know what you're doing?" Of course.
So you want to reverse the 500,000? Is that what?
Right? And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you sure about this?" And the reason we did it is, when and some organizations have to rely on grants. They just don't have a choice.
Certainly.
They have a model of service that requires that. We were fortunate enough that we function a lot like a doctor's office, right? We see people, and if they have insurance, whether Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, we provide a service. We submit a bill to their insurance company, and we wait to get paid. And so that creates its own issues with cash flow and things like that. But it also gives us a lot more flexibility, right? Because we don't have to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that." It doesn't fall within the scope of a grant. Perfect example, a few years ago, we had a company call us. They had a death in the workplace that was observed by a good number of employees, and they wanted help. We were able to reallocate several of our staff, get them out there the same day, and get help to these people who were just struggling. It's not an everyday occurrence to watch one of your coworkers die in front of you. And so we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were still kind of a grant-funded and run organization. And I think for us as a truly community-based organization, it's important that we be able to change with the community and respond to needs that come up in the community. And we've been able to do that.
The time is 8:29 a.m. You're listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Eric Ward of Family Counseling Service. Who are the worthy poor? Who are the worthy poor?
So that's a good question.
Because you got poor people, and then worthy poor?
So I'm going to tell you that is a language and a terminology that I can't even imagine using in general. Our organization, we love the fact that we don't care if you're poor, rich, or somewhere in between. Everybody's worthy of assistance.
Certainly.
So when the organization first started, they used that language, talking about serving the worthy poor. And again, it was different, right? Because families that got assistance, they didn't just get assistance. They had to do something for it. So, for example, maybe the wife would have to come in and clean the agency offices in return for the assistance. Again, not something you want to try nowadays.
Right.
So their worthy poor terminology, you go back and read these minutes, and at board meetings, they would discuss the individuals who were applying for assistance. If the husband was a known alcoholic, they might not be considered worthy. Or if the mother or wife had what they considered questionable morals, they might not be worthy of assistance. And you read what they call the presenting problems in these minutes, and it's just fascinating historical reading, because I remember one month I was looking at the meetings, and 20% of the people who came for help, their diagnosed problem was laziness, right? That was their diagnosis, was laziness. I'm not sure how accurate that was, or whether it was even helpful to label somebody with that, but that's what they did.
Yeah, I've seen there's a great map and a series of maps that I'll have to look for the website again, that can show, if you type in your zip code anywhere in America, it will show you how your district has been specific, or your area has been specifically redlined and segregated, right? So in Aurora, because I've seen this map, I think the Hungarian community was in and around the railroad tracks in the early, we're talking 1800s, and then small Romanian communities and different places like that. And that's how it was for a very long time. And certain areas were designated like no-go zones. The people are of low quality. They're shanty towns and high crime, questionable areas. Kind of amazing to see that these days.
But in some ways, we still have that, right? I mean, we one of the things, I remember, we haven't had this issue in years, but it used to be that, people would call us, and it would often be people who weren't from Aurora, right? So Naperville or Plainfield, and they would want help, and we would tell them, okay, our office is in downtown Aurora, and they would say, never mind, I've heard it's not safe down there. Well, it's perfectly safe. We're here every night. We leave at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Nothing ever happens. They didn't care. There was this reputation, right, that's a no-go zone. is downtown Aurora. It's bad. It's dangerous.
Right. That's sad. That's unfortunate. I think we're shedding that, though.
Yeah,
I do.
absolutely.
I do think we're shedding that. There's a bunch of reasons behind that. A, organizations like yours. B, the fact that we have different supporting organizations like the public library and Wabanzi Community College down there. So,
and the city has
making it
invested
different.
quite a bit in
Yeah.
the downtown area, and you see it is so much different from when I first started working at the organization.
Yep. All right. The time is 8:33 a.m. Gabriel, if you would be so kind, take us to a commercial and give us some local news. Let's see Gabriel do the floss. That must be a dance. That must be a dance.
Yes.
It is?
It is a dance. So it's a dance that was very popular a couple years ago. It's not as popular nowadays because it was like Fortnite before like Among Us came out and all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those dances from the game.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
The floss.
Yeah, that would be a fun segment to teach people some dances. We could get some I don't know if there are local TikTokers out there and get them on. That'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah, we'll open up the app after the news and catch you doing the floss, man. We'll post that for the world to see.
Yeah, do the floss. We'll teach Curtis. Don't worry. So
Nah, bro.
that'd be fun. Actually, I'd like to see that. Don't worry. I've taught some people how to do it before.
Stranger things have happened on the air, so it could happen.
All right, here's today's news. Today at the Alive Center, there will be a holiday party for teens. It will be Friday, December 16th, and it will be from 3 to 7 p.m. It's open to students in grades 5 through 12, and it's located at 78 South LaSalle Street in Aurora. This is just a couple blocks away from our studio here in downtown Aurora. It will be a free White Elephant gift exchange, and gifts are provided. So our motto is just show up. So anyone and everyone is welcome to show up who are teens in grades 5 through 12. And we'll have special guests of Soma Studio, which I believe is a yoga studio. And it's been catered by or sponsored by DoorDash. And also sponsored by State Farm. The food is DoorDash, and the presents are State Farm. So it's a very exciting event. And then there will be a winter holiday party with the Aurora African American Health Coalition in collaboration with the NAACP. And it will be bingo, ornament decorating, cookie decorating, ugly sweater decorating, chili and hot chocolate bar, and pictures with the Grinch. Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun.
The Grinch.
I'm sorry. This is old news. This is from December 15th.
That was yesterday's event.
Oh, my bad. So
You're a mean one.
yes. So that's old news, but hopefully it was a fun event. I'm sure it was.
I saw some pictures. It looked like a good time.
Yeah,
Looked like a good time.
it did. Yeah.
You know, the Grinch is a good story, actually.
Yeah.
Have you peeped the whole scenario of the Grinch?
No,
The Grinch is a good story.
I don't think I've seen I feel like if they had a video just about the Grinch, that would be so nice because I feel like we get a little bit of the backstory in some of the Grinch movies that have come out like with the Who's Down in Whoville and all that stuff, but they cover the whole entire story. And I would just love to have a movie just about the Grinch's backstory, just how it came to be. What's the story?
Well, I mean, going off the old school version, if you recall, remember, he's just you got Whoville. The Grinch, I think, is a good story for mental health and relationships, because he was alone and he hated seeing other people be happy, right? He just hated but he didn't really know anybody. So he goes down there. It's Christmas night. The Who's in Whoville are having a good time. They got the roast beast, remember, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what does he do? Because he hates it so much, he goes down there and tries to rob him. And little Susie Who sees him and is like, yo, is this the kind of person you're robbing us? You're taking the ornaments? Like what?
Yeah, like what?
Remember? She didn't castigate him. She didn't call him bad names. She just showed him through her actions how disappointed. Whoa. What kind of guy? Right? Like we talked about with the kids who were doing the Nutcracker revival, right?
Oh, yeah.
The kids at a certain high school.
The
kids in a high school, they're doing the Nutcracker, and people in the comments, they changing the Nutcracker now. Look at this version of Nutcracker. There's a black girl singing, and it's like, come on, what kind of person? And so the Grinch realizes, no, this is not right. And what does he do? He ties his little dog up, makes him Rudolph, and goes down there and sets it right, man. Bring him presents back.
Yeah.
Bring it back. And, they invite him in for a meal. And bada bing, bada boom. So the moral of the story is that even a mean one, a guy you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, even he could bring it back and sit down at your table for a good meal. The time is 8:38 a.m. The roast beast looked good in a animation when I was a kid, though. I remember thinking, I wonder what that tastes like.
Yeah. See, okay, that's what I've always wanted. Like, have you heard of the mythical kitchen for Good Mythical Morning?
No.
With Red and Link? Oh, you haven't heard? Oh, okay.
No.
Well, we'll have to show you that later.
Yeah.
But it's so entertaining though, because they come up with the craziest, they reimagine foods from movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to have a catering company or someone go and put together a whole entire meal, dessert banquet based off of the food you see in the Grinch, because we've all seen the one really old animated the Grinch Christmas movie. Wouldn't that be so cool? I grew up watching that, and I would just love to see that be make some food from that. And
It could be. It could be.
So fun.
The time is 8:39 a.m. You're listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. So we've talked about a good number of things, including the history of the organization. What kind of upcoming dates, events, initiatives, or calendar items do you guys have? We're ending a year, about to start a brand new one. What's things looking like for 2023?
It's interesting. The last couple of years for us have been challenging. I think mostly related to losing a lot of our staff. One of the drawbacks of helping develop and train high quality mental health clinicians is that they become very sought after by other providers. And as the mental health field kind of exploded during the pandemic, we unfortunately lost quite a few staff that were recruited away, offered a lot more money than we can pay as a nonprofit organization. And it hurt us. It hurt us financially. This is where not having grants really comes back to bite you, right? Because we're kind of reliant on our staff to do their work and see their clients so that we can get paid through that work. So when we're turning over positions and when you bring a new employee in, it takes a while before they're kind of paying for their position, right? They have to be trained. Well, first you have to find them, which has been a challenge, and they have to be trained and build up to a full caseload. So it's been tough for us. Fortunately, back in the summer, we made some pretty significant changes in part to how we structure some of our personnel, and we also got really creative about, hey, we're having a hard time finding clinicians, so we're going to use some of our resources and sort of make our own and train them and build them. We started this Community Mental Health Academy program with our interns. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh.
So we, like everybody, we were struggling to find good clinicians, right? And we kind of looked around at what we had available to us. For 35 or so years, we've had a very large and very successful internship program. We draw students from lots of different universities. It's a 10-month program where they're with us 20 to 25 hours a week. We train them, and we send them out the door as qualified clinicians ready to work in our field. We've literally trained hundreds and hundreds of people that work in our field. So what we decided to do was we took some of those internship positions and we hired them. We told them, you are now employees of the organization, full-time employees. We pay them a full-time salary. In return, they agreed to, once this training year is over with, stay with us for an additional year because we were allowing them to complete their internship requirements and get paid at the same time.
Nice.
And it's a challenge, right? So these internships are typically unpaid in our field. I know when I did it, I was married with 2 young daughters. I was going to school, taking classes, working 2 jobs, and trying to do an internship all at the same time. It's not easy. And so when we gave them the opportunity to work full time and complete their internship requirements, they jumped at it. And we said, that's great. You're going to walk out of here. They get a lot of additional training, mostly related to working in community mental health as opposed to other parts of the mental health field, kind of like the challenges we talked about that our clients bring to the table sometimes. And so they have, besides regular supervision and regular training, they have some additional classroom time every week with some of our varied staff. So they come out of that training year fully ready to work in our agency, work with our population, and then we keep them for another year on top of that. So we kind of killed two birds with one stone. So far, it's going really, really well. We got some support from the Inc. Mental Health Alliance to get the program up and running, and so far it's looking great. So, we had massive turnover numbers up until about 4 months ago, and I think in 4 months we've turned over one position.
Good.
So it really seems to have corrected that issue for us.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations. That's a good reversal.
Yeah.
Of an otherwise sliding trend.
Yes,
really
sir.
good. So how can we help you? How can we and the community watching help you?
Yeah, so, like I said, we don't do a lot of fundraising. We, up until the COVID pandemic, we had a very, very successful and very popular event. I don't know about you, but I've gone to a lot of dinner auctions over the years. That was kind of the thing for a long time with nonprofits, right?
I've only been to 2.
Yeah. Were you bored?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So my agency did that for
Not at Alive's.
right.
Oh yes, yes, not at Alive.
That
We're
was
a
lit.
party. We had dance. We had a dance floor, and it was
good.
good.
That's
It
all
was
right.
DJ. Yeah.
So Family Counseling Service did a dinner auction, and it was a nice event, but 30 plus years of kind of the same event,
Sure.
it got a little old. So I remember one night I was at our event and I went home. It was 11:30, 11:45 at night, and I looked at my wife, Kelly, and I said, we're not doing this again. I'm done with this. And so we were very fortunate at the time. One of our staff, Heather, her husband, Dean Lane, was a regional management person for the Hilton Corporation. So we went and met with him at the Palmer House downtown, and we said, hey, we want to do this event, right?
Downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, we didn't do the event there, but we said, basically, like, I want to borrow some of your chefs. When you talk about chefs, like the Palmer House, the Drake, the Chicago Hilton, these aren't just chefs. These are
Right.
world-class, classically trained chefs.
Right.
So it was kind of a big ask, but we created this event called the Family Counseling Service Food Fight. And it was basically a chef competition. So we had these really, really exemplary chefs. We also had some incredible local chefs who came. They served one dish. It was a competition. The guests got to vote for the winner. We expanded it over the years. We did some kind of craft cocktails, so some local distilleries and breweries. And so it was a really popular event. People loved it. Unfortunately, it's been on hold just because of that. The only fundraising we're really doing right now is what we're in the middle of right now. It's sort of our kind of traditional end of year ask. We're not asking because the agency is hurting. So we've sent out a lot of emails and done some social media posting. And I was very clear. I think I sent the email to you, actually. And
Yes, you did.
I said, we, as a nonprofit, we have kind of a not-so-dirty little secret, and that secret is that financially, we're okay. I mean,
Right.
We're not rolling in cash, right? But we're okay. We're paying the bills. We're not at risk for closing any programs or laying off staff. But here's the thing. We have a waiting list, right? It's smaller right now, but at one point this year, it was well over 300 people, right? I have 3 daughters. I can't imagine being in a position where one of them needed help and calling an organization or a provider and being told that, well, we can help, but it's going to be maybe 6 months before we can
Right.
get you in. And so, while we've done everything that we can to address that waiting list and it's down significantly from where it was at the high point, there's still people that we can't serve. And so what we're asking people for is some help to find 5 new positions that we can create. And the help is not to support those positions throughout the year, right? The cost comes from getting them recruited, hired, and trained and ready to go. And that's where we're asking for help. We want to add 5 new positions over the next few months, one of them being a medication provider in our psychiatric services program, the other 4 being therapists.
Maria Chirito is here. Good morning to you, Maria Chirito. no, because you did send that, and I do appreciate that. So, like, before the mic came on, you asked, like, are we funded? No, we're not. You know, we do make money on advertising, but one of the goals of this show is that I want to be the kind of organization, nonprofit, when we get there, that can do that can make those kind of donations. Like, that is the goal of this show when we get to that level. Right. You know, we're blessed to be in the city's public access TV studio, so that helps too. But the goal of this show will be, I promise you, is that's the kind of thing that I want to do. I want to be able to make those donations to an organization who's doing like that kind of work. Because right now, you know, I'm a volunteer at these places, and I see it, and I've been learning, you know, being a part of this world, like those auction dinners, you know, I go there and I'm the guy. It's like my second or third one. Other people who this is their world, but like learning and seeing it takes a lot for these organizations to survive and to do things.
Yeah,
it takes more than most people are aware of.
Yeah, it was funny because when we were planning the food fight event, you know, I talked to a number of people who had been great supporters of our agency for a long time. I went and met with Don Pilmer. He's senior VP over at Old Second Bank, and I just said, give me some honest feedback. Tell me, you know. And he said, you know, you guys, you put on a nice party, but it could be better, you know. And so he gave me some great suggestions. We implemented those suggestions. You know, and it was so nice because after we held the first food fight event, you know, he reached back out to me and he said, that's exactly what we were talking about. Great job.
Nice.
Right? And so that's what we love about this organization is those connections in the community, you know, being able to call people who want to support us, want us to do well, and just say, hey, help us, even if it's just with an idea, right? Or some kind of exposure or something like that.
Right. Well, you have our email now, goodmorningaurora@gmail.com. So as we tell everybody who watches the show or has been on the show, like if we can help you in any way, even if it's, hey, share this flyer, share this poster, put this out there. You know, the news roll that we have and Gabriel was reading is like, that's all local organizations. So if whatever you guys got, we're happy to share it for you guys, man.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. The time is 8:49 a.m. So we talked about funding. We talked about the history of the organization. Another one of the things I want to talk about is I want to talk about social media. And I've asked this question to a number of people all in the field of social services and mental health. In your opinion, is social media helping in today's climate of, you know, mental health and defeating anxiety, or is it taking away from that help? Is it exacerbating issues? What's your opinion of that?
I think it's one of the most destructive things we've ever seen for people's mental health.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Part of it is because, you know, as we all know, people do not reflect their true selves on social media.
True.
You know, and you got to think about this from a child or adolescent perspective in particular. It's true for adults too, but in particular for adolescents, right? You go on whatever social media platform. I know I'm old. I still use Facebook, right? But whatever social media platform you use, and everybody's happy. Everybody is dressed nice. Everybody has great friends. They're all having a good time. Turns out most of that just isn't real, right? But this is the reality against which most people are comparing themselves. And guess what? They don't match up.
Right.
You'll never match up because it's not real, right? But when your entire reality is encompassed within social media and you don't match up, you're not as good as everybody else, the effects on your mental health are going to be catastrophic. You know, and there's a really fascinating article out there that was written by a psychologist a couple years ago. It's called "Have Smartphones Ruined a Generation?" Right? And she's done the research, and she walks through kind of the impact, right? And she talks about just the isolation effects of social media alone, right? That kids in particular, teenagers especially, they don't go to parties anymore. They don't go to the mall. A lot of them are in no rush to get their driver's license when they turn 16 because where are they going to go, right? They don't care. I don't know about you, but my 16th birthday, I was standing at the door when the DMV opened. And, give me my license because I want out of the house. I want to go hang out with my friends. People don't do that.
Never coming back, yeah.
Right? People just don't do that anymore. What's interesting is the only positive that I can find about social media is that since it became prevalent, teenage pregnancy rates have plummeted. right? Which, not surprising. You don't ever have face-to-face contact with anybody. It's kind of hard to get pregnant,
Right.
But that's really the only benefit. You know, what else are people getting out of this? You know, I use social media mostly just to kind of keep in touch with people. It's nice to look at pictures. And,
Right.
You know, I reconnected with some people I hadn't talked to in years and years. You know, I've done it myself. I've made the mistake of getting into political arguments and other arguments
Right.
online. Try really hard the last few years not to do that and stay out of the commentary, and just use it as a way to say, hey, here's what's going on.
Right.
You know, nice to see you're doing well, and that's about it. But unfortunately, most people, their lives revolve around how many likes, how many thumbs up,
Yep.
how many shares, right? And when you are putting all of your self-worth into a very false reality, you will never find yourself worthy.
People are always only show their best side. They're only showing the best things, the brightest moments and all that kind of stuff. No, I agree with what you say. I do, you know, I got a 10-year-old, so, you know, he's, it's the coolest thing in the world, but, you know, thankfully we're able to, you know, unplug it with actual real life interactions and sports and things like that. But I do kind of wonder if like we're on the horse and can't get off because of the prevalency of and the way technology is going and making things easier and access. And, you know, I guess there is a benefit to being accessible and connected, lowercase c right there with connected. But, you know.
But sometimes even that is a drawback, right? So I'll give you an interesting theory that I have, and it's free, so you probably get worth what you pay for it. There's an interesting correlation between the rising suicide rates among our veterans and the rising suicide rates among today's teens, right? And here's the correlation. So we know that most veterans or even active duty members who attempt or complete suicide, it's usually related to post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So what causes PTSD? It's either prolonged exposure to trauma, or it's, you know, acute exposure to significant trauma, right?
Right.
So think about warfare back in World War II, for example, right? You would fight a battle. It would be intense. People would die. You would watch your friends die, but then you would have a break, usually because you were, you know, traveling to the next scene of the battle or whatever. But there were breaks in between these sort of traumatic events. Think about modern warfare, right? You're over in Iraq or Afghanistan. You don't know when you're going to die.
Right.
You could be driving down the road just going on a supply run, and an IED takes out your entire team, right? And what happens is, you know, those soldiers become sort of hyper vigilant and hyper aware, and to them, daily life is traumatizing because you could die at any moment. And so it's not surprising that we have higher rates of PTSD. Now, think about teens, right? When I was a boy, there was drama and trauma at school, right? And make no mistake, for teens, having conflict, social conflict, is just as traumatizing for them because that's their world, right? When I was a kid, we would have some sort of conflict at school. Well, on Friday afternoon, everybody went home and you just ignored it, right? You just didn't talk about it. Maybe you picked up a phone and called your friend, you know, landline attached to the wall.
Right.
And that was about it. And by the time you went back to school Monday morning, it was pretty much over.
Old news.
Right?
Yep.
Now there's something that happens at school and everybody's recording it. Everybody's sharing it on social media. You don't ever get away from it.
You're right.
And so they are constantly being exposed and re-exposed to this trauma over and over again.
You're right. And it's been like a month now, but that's something else that we talked about. And it was in the same context of this social media thing. It makes me so sad to see that it goes viral. They beating up a kid and that goes viral. The kid falls down the thing and that goes viral. Like you're not calling the school nurse for the kid. You're recording him in his worst moment. And that's funny, you know, and that's what gets the likes. That's what gets the views and the shares. It is sad. It lives forever. Yeah. So the person who experienced it can continue to see it and know that they've been the brunt of the joke for the entire world now. Yeah. So yes, to your point, yeah, it's But it's not very harmful and destructive.
It's not new human behavior.
No,
right?
it's not.
I mean,
it's just being recorded.
Right. Even before social media, you know, you see a big, huge car accident and you slow down as you drive past so that you can look at it.
Right.
Most people don't stop to help.
Right.
Right. They just want to watch it. They want to watch the show.
That's true. That is sad. How can we? Well, I guess this is a larger conversation, which would take more than an hour to dissect. But I guess the question I the rabbit hole I did kind of want to skirt around is how could we stop people from wanting to watch the show, or is that even possible?
I don't think it's possible, but I think the best thing that I can always recommend to people is this is where our responsibilities as parents become paramount.
Right.
I have a 14-year-old daughter at home, but I also have 26 and 25-year-old daughters who are grown. And, both my 14-year-old and the older two, we have rules about phones in my house. At 10 o'clock at night, that phone better be plugged in my room. You don't need it overnight. You can come back and get it in the morning. We don't have phones when we sit down to dinner, right? And we sit down to dinner and we talk about your day, and you have to participate in that conversation, right? We have guests over. I don't want to see your phone. You sit down and you talk to people, right? We're going out to do something as a family. Leave your phone in your pocket. And so I think we also have some responsibility to monitor their activity, right? And sit down and have reasonable conversations with our teens, like, hey, this thing that you said was really kind of mean, right? Or it was inappropriate. Or was this you being a good friend? Was this you being supportive? Or was this you kind of jumping on the bandwagon and picking on this like everybody else was?
Right.
Those conversations are much more meaningful than just, I'm going to take your phone away, or, all these rules and regulations. I think it's, we have to do the work as parents to sit down and have conversations with our kids.
Time is 8:59 a.m. Last question. In your opinion, how is the city addressing the mental health question? How is it like, or rather, what is it like working with other organizations? The collective team effort amongst your organization, others in the city. How's that working? How's it look? Any challenges that we got to overcome, or?
No. So I think both the city of Aurora and the other organizations that do what we do are incredible partners. Just to give you a perfect example, as we were going through the worst of the worst, losing staff, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened was Mike Isaacson, who recently got promoted to be executive director of the Kane County Health Department, brought together a bunch of mental health organizations. And we worked together to file an application for some of the Kane County ARPA funds to be able to offer our staff both hiring and recruitment bonuses, right? And we're awarded a couple of $1 million that was shared among several organizations, and our staff have been so appreciative, right? So we've been able to go out and recruit people because everybody's offering hiring bonuses now,
right.
And we had to as well. But also to be able to periodically give them additional money, like, hey, thank you for what you do. Thank you for sticking with our organization and our mission and the people that we serve. And that's just one example of how these organizations work together. I think we are very fortunate and very blessed to have a community full of providers of various types who all kind of have the same mission, which is to make sure people are okay.
Okay, good stuff. Well, the time is 9:00 a.m. I think we saved the world, man. I think we did our very best.
I'm gonna go home then.
I think we did a good job today of putting it to the people. So, thank you very much for coming on to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And then if we can be of any benefit to you in any way, help you get the word out, please feel free to let us know if you need help, volunteers, a helping hand to move anything in any of your events that you got coming up. We volunteer too. Awesome. So if we can help you do anything big or small, please let us know.
We will. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for checking out the show today. And we appreciate Dr. Eric Ward of Family Counseling Service for his time. 70 South River Street. 70 South River Street is the address. If you or someone that you know can benefit from their service, please reach out to them. Other than that, we will see you here on Monday for another great show, and get ready for the rest of this year. In 2023 is coming up, and we're looking forward to it. Take care of yourself and each other.